Hello students, your instructor here, John Mandela, with another screencast. This one part of the color study guide for Intro to Computer Graphics. So if we look here, CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. This is a color mode that's for print. Actually, everything that we see that's printed, or just about everything we see that's printed, is created with these four semi-transparent ink colors: cyan, which is a bluish color; magenta, which is a kind of a pinkish color; yellow; and black. Actually, black is more of a grayish, almost like this looks like a charcoal gray, than it is like a straight black. Anyway, you lay down transparent values of these colors and you create all the other colors that we see, like reds and oranges and purples and things like that. It's considered a subtractive color process, and the reason why is because of this. If we started the page, let's say it's white, generally is what you think of, and then you're going to apply ink to it. Even though we're adding ink, what we're actually doing is subtracting the amount of light that's reflecting back. Okay? So, case in point is this. If I go to this square, this is cyan, I look at it, I have, well, all these should be at 0, I have just a little bit of cyan, a value of 20, and notice the percent symbol, 20% fill of cyan. But if I make this more cyan, see, like that, even though I'm increasing the amount of cyan, what I'm actually doing is subtracting the amount of light that's reflecting. Right? Because when it was a little bit of cyan, it's pretty light. When it's a heavy amount of cyan, it's pretty dark, actually, pretty rich. And the same thing applies for all of these. All these values are at 0. If I increase the amount of magenta, I'm subtracting the amount of light that's available in that area. Even with yellow, we think of yellow as a very light color. As light as yellow is, it's still darker than white. So if I increase the amount of yellow, I'm going to decrease the amount of light available, so I'm subtracting light. Alright, and I can do the same thing with black here. So if I click on this, if I increase the amount of, oops, zero those out. If I increase the amount of black, I'm subtracting the amount of light that's available. So again, it's on a scale of 0 to 100%. So you can never have more than 100% of a given ink color, and you can certainly never have less than 0. So it's 0 to 100%. And so a lot of colors, if you were to, like, for example, if I wanted to make this not yellow, but if I wanted to make this an orangey color, I start with the yellow, which I have 100% of, and then I add a little bit of cyan, add a little bit of magenta, and I get an orange color. So that's how those work. And at any time, if you have a color or an object, you can always click on it and adjust the color values here. Swatches are nice because they allow you to just click and get a color real quickly, but then you can spend a considerable amount of time with these sliders, or ramps they're called, to adjust the color, customize the way you want. Now, RGB, this is what print color, this is what web color is all about. For websites, mobile devices, basically anything that's not printed. If it's on a screen of any kind, it's going to have to be an RGB color mode, which stands for red, green, blue. It's on a scale of 0 to 255, so it's not a percentage either, it's just a unit of measurement, 0 to 255. And it's additive color. And the reason why we call it additive color is because as I click on these, and I'm going to, right now I'm seeing CMYK, so it won't make any sense. If I adjust my color menu to be RGB, I'm going to zero these out. You can see that with a small amount, it's not light like this one was. Remember, we started with a very light color of cyan because there wasn't much cyan here. Well, I don't have a lot of red, so it starts out very dark. Because screens of any kind, when they're in their off state, they're black, right? So if I increase the amount of red all the way to 55, this makes it a lighter color. That's why it's called additive. I'm adding light to that area now. Same thing with green. If I started off with a very small amount of green, it's very dark. If I increase the amount of green, it becomes very light. And lastly, same with blue. If I have a low amount of blue, it's very dark. If I increase the amount of blue, it becomes very bright. Okay, I'm adding light to the area. And again, similar to the way CMYK works, if I don't want a blue, if I want a different kind of color, I can just increase the other values along with it. So now I can create maybe like a teal color like that or whatever. Or even increase the amount of red as well to get a different kind of, like a purpley color. So that's how CMYK and RGB differ from each other. If I go to, let me use Photoshop now as an example here. In this diagram, let's talk quickly about this. This is how CMYK and RGB are similar to each other, how they relate to each other. They're exact inverses. So here's R, G, and B, red, green, and blue. And if I overlay them in Photoshop, you can see that so full-on R and full-on green added together would make yellow. Full-on green plus full-on blue will make cyan, and full blue plus full red will make magenta. And if I have full of all these RGB colors, I'll make white. Okay, so that's how they relate to each other.